Hi friends and welcome. My name is Donato Fatuesi, your host of Kurry Talks. Before we begin, we'd like to acknowledge that we are in the lands of the Coast Salish and Duwamish tribes, and that as traditional stewards of this land, it is important that not only we respect it, but that we pay real rent. To learn about how you can pay real rent, please visit www.realrentduwamish.org. Welcome back to episode 6. This is the Atasha Effects episode here on Kurry Talks. Again, I am your host, Donato Fatuesi of Utopia, Washington. Tonight, we will be joined by the one and only Atasha Alfajora Manila. You might remember Atasha as the 2013-2014 Miss UTOPIA International, and Atasha is currently serving as the STI and HIV Prevention Specialist at Entre Hermanos. We're so excited to have Atasha here tonight. Please welcome her to my Kurry Talk stage.
Hi everyone, Atasha here. Hope you guys are staying safe and doing well. Mwah.
Thank you, Atasha, for being part of our Kurry Talks show. As you might know, Kurry Talks helps to bring the concept of healing medicinal properties by engaging in conversations around folks' experience through the pandemic in the hope that it can also bring healing to others.
Well, I'm excited to share my story. I mean, I know I'm not the only one who went through it, so sharing my story would probably be amazing and hopefully inspire someone else to come out and seek the help that they need. Never back down. Don't be shy. You're not alone and will never be alone. Just saying.
Absolutely right. And so as we're bringing up conversations around our experiences through the pandemic, why don't you start by sharing with our viewers your initial experience when finding out about everything getting locked down, toilet paper flying off the shelves, there's no more toilet paper, and all of the crazy things like that are first going through your mind when news about this serious outbreak first happened last year.
I was performing, bartending. That was my main source of income. Working at Thai restaurant and then also doing shows on the side was my main source of income. And you know, we're meeting people as well, but it just happened so quickly to the point where I could not even say bye girl, it's good to see you, or take care of yourself. I mean, it stopped, and all of a sudden I was like, what's gonna happen to me? I was just basically worried about my family, friends, community, and myself, and thinking about how I'm going to survive throughout this whole thing, especially knowing that I don't have any money saved up. I was working paycheck through paycheck, and losing the job and the place where where a lot of us find refuge, like the bars and the clubs where we feel like who we are, and I lost that because of the pandemic.
I really love that you touched on the fact that for many in our community, the nightlife has that sense of refuge for many of us, to be able to just come out, be free, and like connect with others who are living in their truths. For those of you that might just now be tuning in, Atasha Manila was working as a gig worker. And immediately when things started shutting down, gig workers were the main group of folks that immediately lost their jobs and or were laid off and then completely cut off from economic abilities to be able to just pay their rent or buy food, at its most basic core, survive. And so, Atasha, I want to talk a little bit more now that you've shared how it immediately impacted you as a gig worker. What were some ways that you were able to not only be within community with folks, but get through meeting your most basic needs?
I just basically was just going with the flow, like day to day, just getting by basically, and my main concern was that to be safe, protect myself, protect my family. Think about how I'm gonna get the money, how, especially with the things happening right now. Was not receiving unemployment, did not have any money at all. I mean, the only way I know how was through drag, but without that connection, that human connection, I lost myself. I was not myself. I mean, performing and then for no one, basically. I don't have that love, or like I don't feel like myself. I lost myself, and then while I was performing, people were gathering outside and was not following protocol. That was also my main concern, that people are, you know, going to spread the virus because of me, and I was not having that. So within just me and a few groups of friends, they tried, but I was not having it. I was not myself without that human connection. Because when I perform, I certainly look at the person's eyes. So it's like, I'm here, I see you, bitch. Work, work. I'm here, and just, you know,
and give me more.
Yeah, give me more.
Absolutely.
But even though people were trying to give you money online, I was not able to do it. I just was not myself. And every day, for maybe 3 weeks, I would wake up in the morning, and I would just stand myself in front of the mirror and paint my mug. Like, to the point where I would end up looking like a character from Avatar at the end of the night. Basically just pile on of makeup, just playing with it. And when it comes to recording, I would freeze. I did not feel like I was myself. I just lost it. To the point where, like, months passes by, and picking up a brush was hard for me to do. That normally comes naturally for me. Making an outfit comes easily for me, and I was running out of sorts. I didn't have money to buy the glue. I did not have the financial support, and I did not know how to ask. I was not asking for help, so I was just letting it just do it, and I don't know why.
Atasha, I'm a follower of your social media. As we've been friends for many years, you're also a very well-known figure in the Seattle community and the Seattle nightlife. It was interesting to see around that time you were able to immediately adapt to online drag shows. And as the queen of Beacon Hill, I witnessed back then that you were doing drag shows right out here in the back alley of your street. Can you share about that experience with folks, and like what prompted you to take that leap of faith, knowing that it's so hard to connect with people through a camera, right? You still took that risk. It was a phenomenal show regardless, but like, what was that like for you?
It's different. It's really different. I mean, to come out and perform at 7 o'clock, because that's my show start. It's on a Wednesday, and it starts at 7:30, and then just to go outside and no one is in there. Like literally no one except me and my two friends that's helping me put this video together. And I could only try so much, but without the human connection, I was out of it, and I was not gonna, my show jeopardize other people's lives by performing. And people were gathering outside, they waited for me, they were sitting on a chair, but not following the protocol. And I wasn't gonna be the person that's, oh, the killer, it's right there. She's the one that's like, no, I was not, that was not about to happen. So I kind of stopped, and then when I stopped, that's when I deteriorated.
Wow. It's so beautiful to hear that story of resilience, that despite what the world was facing, you tried to find a way. It sounds like there's something deeper that happened with your experience throughout all of that. What type of challenges did you face?
I was more concerned about my mental, because I know myself. I know myself well enough. So not only the pandemic took my main source of income, but it also drained me out mentally and emotionally. That I basically stopped the connection, talking to people. I did not like the way I looked like in the mirror. I wasn't myself. No matter how much makeup I tried to put on, you could still see the sadness in my eye. Like it's so prominent on my face that you could tell immediately that I was struggling, that I was so out of it. So after seeing that, all I wanted to do was disconnect. And I reached out around August. I reached out again, and they started me back on my my antidepressant, but it still wasn't working. So every week they just keep increasing and increasing. I started from 25 milligrams, and I still take it to this day, 150 milligrams, but I've never felt so much better. It really did help me, but it took a while. It took a while until to the point, the struggle, like mentally, and I felt like a burden.
What conversations were you having with yourself? What was your internal narrative while you were facing all of those challenges?
That I was worthless, that I was a burden to everyone. That I live in this country and I have families back home, and I'm not even able to send any money or any help to them. My sister's been working so hard to provide for all of us. My mom, who's old and retired, was giving me money and was dropping off food for me. It was hard for me to reach out, and I don't know why. I just felt like a burden. That's why it was, and I just constantly talked to myself, and it said, "What are you doing with your life?" I mean, I could only try so much. That to the point where drag is my source of happiness. It just it keeps my mind moving. It just make me do things. But to the point where I was sleeping 18 hours to 22 hours a day, 4 or 5 days in a row, and I did not want to talk to anyone. I just wanted to disconnect, and I did not know why, to the point where I had failed multiple attempted suicide. I've struggled mentally and emotionally. This whole pandemic just drained me out. So when fall hits, that's when everything was just fell into pieces, just out. I just want to die. I wanted to disconnect, and my dog saved me. My plants
Take your time.
When I was treated for suicide, nobody knew. I went to a doctor's appointment. All of a sudden, I had ambulance pick me up and tied me on my bed. I spent 5 nights at the hospital, getting the treatment and the help that I need. Because otherwise I said, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die. So if it wasn't for my dogs and then the little things that, we tend to forget.
Mm-hmm. Atasha,
Yeah.
thank you so much. I understand this cannot be easy for you to talk about.
No.
It's so beautiful to hear how you found joy again and meaning and purpose in everything around your home. And even the smallest things, like you say, your plants. But I can tell that you have such a love for your plants, and you've given life to all of these amazing green plants that grow beautifully because you love and care for it.
Yeah.
And for them. And I'm so glad that you're still with us.
Yeah, and they're I look at my plants, and as so many, I have so many of them. So I always tell my friends that, check out, check up on me when you see my windows shut down and then all my plants are dying. If my plants are dying, that means I'm dying. Because I was not letting anyone come inside.
Yeah.
I wanted to isolate myself, but I tried so hard to live. And for months it was survive was the word.
We go through that survival mode
Yeah.
before things start to feel.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Brene Brown is a specialist that for over 20 years of her life has dedicated her life's work to researching empathy. And she talks about comparative suffering. And it's this idea that someone has it worse than me, so what do I have to complain about, right? And it sounds like that's some of the thinking that has helped to contribute to a lot of anxiety that folks have felt across the pandemic, that I have a home over my head, so somebody has it worse, and so therefore what I'm feeling, I'm dismissing, right? But when something that is core to the fabric of your being, like drag,
Yeah.
and drag performing, immediately gets cut off from your life, like imagine how huge that shift can impact your mental state. And so I completely empathize with everything that you've gone through, and I'm so grateful that you've been willing to share your story with us. In looking forward, what is some perspective that you've gained from that experience?
That I am strong. I am strong. I'm resilient, and I have hope again.
Yeah.
Yeah. I look forward to every day waking up, going to work. After I was discharged from the hospital, ISIS, from UTOPIA, and from the Pride Foundation, I love you, sis, reached out, and then she talked to me, and then I said, this is what I've gone through. She was one of the first few people that actually I find out about it. Her and Val, they stopped by, because I started, it was difficult for me to say something at first, but the more as the time passes by, and I said, bitch, you're not the only one. There's so many queens out there. There's so many people that works in the service industry that is probably going through the same thing and wanted to end their life. And if you could be that person, then why not share your story? Because for the longest time, like I said, I was not able to say anything. I wasn't myself. I was hopeless. I just wanted to disconnect. Even to my own chosen family, I could not say anything, not to my drag mother, to my circle of friends, but there are a few of them that remain, no matter how stubborn I was. I said, no, I'm not opening the window, I'm not gonna see you. They would bang up my window and call on and check up on me constantly because they know I live alone. And this whole thing is just crazy for me, for all of us.
Atasha, you created so many fabulous looks throughout the pandemic.
Yeah, that I just keep saying that, oh, I'm getting better. You know, people tell me, just say that you're getting better, but I'm only lying to myself if I was gonna say I'm better when I know deep inside that I was just falling apart. So throughout this whole thing, what kept me going, even though I stopped for a little bit, was my drag. When I got better, immediately I started to pick up the scissor and take things apart, gluing and sewing, and that kept my mind sane, together, even though I've almost lost myself. So remember, you're not alone. Ask for help. I ask for help. I mean, I feel so much better every day. Remember, help. Reach out.
Thank you, Atasha. When we come back, we are going to explore some of Atasha's creative designs in lieu of the fun games that we typically play. I know you're probably over me and my games, so instead, we're gonna focus all of that fun energy in seeing some of Atasha's beautiful, beautiful designs.
Oh, thank you.
Don't go away. Also, I almost forgot, we do have Ask a Doctor, which will be coming on later. So stick around. Thank you so much.
Stick around.
In 2009, our islands in the Pacific were devastated by a tsunami that left a lot of people homeless and without resources needing to survive. A group of indigenous trans women, Samoan trans women, Pacific Islander trans women here in South King County got together and created a fundraiser. From there, we have discovered the power of coming together as a community, and we've started to take on more work since then. You can see right behind me, we are at our vaccine clinic. Enjoy, bye-bye, take care, okay?
UTOPIA Washington stands for the United Territories of Pacific Islanders Alliance. Our mission is to create sacred spaces for the queer and transgender Pacific Islander community, also referred to as our cutie pie community.
UTOPIA has really been a champion for climate equity, especially in the last few years. So the award they're receiving is the Climate Equity Awareness Award.
UTOPIA has worked to expand its education with the Pacific Islander community to be able to keep them more aware of the effects of climate change, not just in the South Pacific region, but also throughout the world. And so some of the ways that we have done so is by creating translated materials that are catered to the languages and the different cultures represented throughout the South Pacific.
And although UTOPIA works on providing a lot of different social services, their expertise is really valuable in shaping climate policy.
We need to be the ones that are in the ears of people who are making decisions and making sure that they hear how important this is to us.
Hi! Surprise! It's me.
not you. So these are some of the things that I created throughout the pandemic. The first thing that I did, since we were running out of masks, so you gotta make it work. So what I did is cut some of my bra apart and then used some of my broken jewelry and created this simple mask to protect myself from the virus, because the virus is real. So remember, keep masking up like so. And if you need more masks, ask me. I have more masks, or ask someone, or use a bra. Protect yourself with a bra. This is a bra. Make it work. Doesn't this make you look like a real fish? Yes, don't be jealous. I know you're jealous. This is one of the first things that I made. This Confucian realness, inspired by a lot of things that was going through my head. You know, I have multiple personality disorder, so 36 people try to talk to me at the same time, so this is what I came up with. Yes! Are you all about it? Let me just take this one off. You're gonna see Voldemort. You from Easy Breezy Beautiful, Sherwin-Williams, because cover girl, don't cover boy. And we're back! Hi! Yes! I'm that bitch that sleeps underneath your bed every night that you're scared of. For right now, I'm here with Kurry Talks. Because why? Because I can. Hello! You're probably wondering what I ate today. That's why I look like this. Well, that's on me. I want to, since the first thing that I made, when I actually got better, was this purse. It's originally a skirt, as you can see, and I turned it into a little purse. She's sturdy, she's beautiful, and I stole the skirt from my sister. But with the pandemic happening and my antidepressants kicking in, it made me eat. So she's, you know, have gained a little something on the hips, the thighs, the chest, the arms, everything. Don't be jealous that I'm a fully figured woman now. Bye! Thank you, Kurry Talk, for having me. Thank you so much. It's an honor. I'm so happy to see you. Please give it up for Nato. She's an amazing host. And of course, these two lovely gentlemen in the back, putting all these lights together, giving me all the I hope I look beautiful. But from the bottom of my heart, I would like to thank a few handful of people and organizations that got me through the hardest time of my life. Once again, to my Utopia family, that's United Territories of Pacific Islanders Alliance, Washington, and they are located in the new office 2 blocks away from the old office. Yes, give them a call, say hi, and also if you want to come and get tested, want to find out your results, your prueba, puede visitamos a la oficina at 1621 South Jackson Street, Suite 202, Seattle, Washington 98144. We do free HIV and STI testing. With that being said, thank you, Entre Hermanos, and don't forget about our fundraiser coming up, our Cinco de Mayo event. Yes, that's May 1st, 2021, happening at El Centro de la Raza, at the next to the Roberto Maestro Plaza. So say hi, donate to your favorite organization that's keeping your community alive. I mean, people like me that have gone through it. So thank you, Utopia. Thank you to my chosen family. I love you, Mama Manila. Pride Asia happening soon. Yes, virtually. Yes. Hosted by the one and only Alexa Manila. To the Leo Party Foundation, I love you. Thank you, Joe. To my friends and to my family that constantly checked up on me throughout this whole year, thank you. Thank you for keeping me alive. Thank you for giving me hope. And thank you for helping me become myself again. Slowly, but surely. So, that being said, muchas gracias, salamat, mabuhay, talofa. Thank you. Thank you,
Atasha,
Tati.
thank you so much for being the joy that sparks the light in our lives. Thank you all for tuning in. We have Ask a Doctor coming up next, so don't go anywhere.
Don't.
Bye!
Mwah! 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 Take care.
Yeah. Hi, everyone, and welcome to what usually is our Ask a Doctor segment of tonight's program. Unfortunately, I think we're having some technical difficulties, and that's why you cannot see our host, Diana. So I'll just go ahead and fill in for now. So we're doing things a little bit different tonight. Instead of the usual Ask a Doctor, Ask a Nurse, tonight will be Ask a Community Member. So along with Diana, myself, and our beautiful guest Ara-Lei are here on tonight to have a little bit of a conversation amongst each other, but also with all of you who are viewing tonight about the impacts of COVID-19 mentally on queer and trans people. So before I go any further, um, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes. Well, aloha, talofa lava, and malolele to everyone who is watching this evening. My name is Aras Fainulele Mahelani Yandall. I serve as the cultural community organizer here at Utopia, Washington. Um, and what that basically means is my responsibilities here require me to see the work through a cultural lens. And part of like a huge part of my work here is also building the leadership and the skills of trans and gender diverse folks within the Washington region. And so honored to be here tonight and just listening to that wonderful story provided by the lovely Atasha Manila has touched my heart and I'm so inspired. I don't know about you, Tepa, but it was just a lovely watch. I congrats to Nato on such a successful interview. I loved the flow of it. And Atasha, we are here for you always. Thank you for sharing your story.
Okay. And it looks like we have our host back on. Diana, would you like to take over?
Absolutely. I'm so sorry for the technical difficulty. I guess no ask a doctor or ask a community leader can be successful without a little bit of glitch. That is our signature. We used to have train noise, that was a signature. But I think we are starting on a good note. So let me begin again. Nisambula Vinaka, Talofa, and good evening to all our viewers on behalf of Utopia Washington. I would like to thank all of you who have taken this time to join us in this month's Kurry Talk and our first ever Ask a Community Leader. Now, at this juncture, I would like to invite you to please like, subscribe, and share our page, our Utopia Washington page. And if you really like this, the Kurry Talks that's just, played, please like that as well. And don't forget to share with your friends and family. You don't know, it may be useful for somebody out there who may be looking out for, who may be going through similar stories as Atasha. And please, I beg you to subscribe to our newsletter that we dish out every month, and we have a really exciting news, resources, and celebrations around gender diverse folks every month that we put out there. It takes a lot of effort to do that, and there is a lot of resources as well on there. So you never know, you may want to utilize one of those. Now, I'm sure you have already met the two wonderful women, but I have written out, from my heart, some really great things about them because I work with them. I've learned so much from them, and I wanted to share a little bit about these two wonderful women. Tonight, we are joined by two amazing women who day in and day out have dedicated their lives in serving and building community. They are strong, and from my experience, I see them every day. They're full of compassion. And I shall not forget to mention that they are so creative and have so much lived experiences that not only makes them so unique, but relatable to so many. I would like to welcome Ara-Lei and Tepa to Ask a Community Leader. So without further much ado, Ara and Tepa, how did you feel about Atasha's personal story that we just heard?
Tepa, you want to start?
Sure. Atasha's story hits very deep. While it was so beautiful to just hear how strong, and in her own words, how strong and resilient she is, knowing Atasha personally and being a part of Utopia's community for so long, it pains me to see the experience, to hear about the experience that she had to go through. I think during the pandemic, often we forget about checking up on each other, right? And that comes from us, we're also in a place of fear of the uncertainty and the unknown, and trying to navigate the pandemic ourselves with all those fears compounded, not forgetting how important it is and life-saving it is to check in on each other. And so it's definitely an honor to listen to Atasha's story. And I just want to say to Atasha that you are such an amazing, strong, and resilient individual. Atasha, for those who don't know Atasha, Atasha's just one of those souls that just make you happy, make you laugh, and just make you just enjoy their company all the time. And so often the people who are always concerned with making you happy are the people that we tend to forget to check in on, and that they may be going through something. But individuals such as Atasha are always so busy taking care of everyone else.
Very
That's
well
so
said, yeah.
true, Iba. I think I echo that same sentiment on the importance of checking up on each other. You know, you would never know if you had, like Tepa had expressed, that Atasha is just an individual that is so full of life. And had I not listened to that testimony tonight, I would have never known she was going through that, because she hides everything with a smile and she does everything so graciously. But it just goes to show that we need to do our part as people in this community to check up on each other. You never know what people are going through, especially under the circumstances of a pandemic, right?
Absolutely. And you know what? I remember from the things that Natasha shared, she mentioned human connection. She said that, no matter how much makeup she put on, the sadness on her face would not disappear. It would not go away. Tepa, you brought us such a great point about checking up on each other. Checking up on each other, it gives me goosebumps as I say this, because, so many times we as sisters, we fail to check on each other. We take for granted that some of our sisters may be just well and fine, but the pandemic is so new for everybody, and last year was so dramatic, and so people were going battling different battles them in their own lives. I know a lot of folks from my home country, Fiji, a lot of girls, they were battling to survive and to bring food for themselves and for their family. How they're doing it, I've been keeping a close tab on few of them, but there's so many of them that I am not being able to, keep in touch. And this reminds me of, Atasha's story reminds me that I need to do a better job at keeping a tab and checking checking up with our friends and our girls, especially. Thank you, Tapa, for sharing that, because it's such a great and such an important part. And I guess, sometimes we can be so busy with life, we get so busy with things that we can forget the simple little thing. Maybe just a little text, maybe a message. Now, what Atasha shared is a very brave of her. I believe that trying to normalize a conversation around mental health, about depression, about stress, about anxiety, about the fears that she was facing, and kudos to her for being able to bring out all those stories, all those experiences, and so many that she may not have been able to share within the 30 minutes, but she was able to do that. I would like to bring this to the panel, and whoever feels, if you want to share, if you have ever experienced an attack of fear, anxiety, or panic, and what was it like, and how did you personally handle it?
Well, I guess I'll start. During this pandemic, there's been quite a few times that like Tepa have mentioned, the fear of the unknown, uncertainty is a fear. That's the biggest fear that I'd had before. Even stepping outside of the house to go to work or to buy stuff from the supermarket, I felt like that was a risk that I was taking in getting, some way, somehow being able to transmit the disease from someone. There was so much anxiety and there was so much paranoia that I just curled up into my own space at home and just decided to block the world off, and for quite some time. And I feel like a lot of people have been going through this, because prior to receiving the vaccination or the vaccine, no one really knew where we were headed, and that's where my state of mind was, and that was the main fear that I faced.
Thank you, Ara, for sharing this.
I can also share. Last year in the middle of the pandemic, around July, excuse me, I had a gender affirming procedure done. And immediately right after, I recovered so well and so quickly. And about 2 weeks after that, I suddenly started to feel sick. I developed a fever, body aches. And, in the middle of the pandemic, my mind already automatically just went to like all the symptoms of COVID. And so definitely a lot of anxiety, a lot of feeling alone and isolated because when I wasn't sure exactly what I was coming down with, I basically locked myself in my room out of respect to the rest of my roommates. Luckily, I had access to my own bathroom, and I just basically warned everybody not to use, that bathroom. And my roommates, they were so kind to like check up on me, to bring medication by my door and to leave like bring food to my dresser. Um, but it definitely, like, I was already in a place where, as a trans person of color, in the middle of a pandemic, that's like trying my best to do all this work to make sure that my community gets at least some type of relief in the midst of all this chaos. Um, and trying to navigate that also, personally, I found myself just heading into a very dark place because, like I said, I was already being so restricted by the pandemic on what I can and cannot do, and now I was even more restricted to a bedroom, and so that can be mentally taxing on somebody.
Mhm.
It was definitely for me because just lying in bed and sitting on my bed and walking to like the four corners of my bedroom for almost a whole week, it was definitely mind blowing. Like it was just like I was like, what? Like there was a point where I wanted to get out and just like say screw it and go to volleyball with the rest of my friends, go to tennis with the rest of my friends. But thankfully, I recovered quickly again in just a matter of like a week. But it's just again like that experience alone, um, however minor it may seem to many people, but paints a picture of like the type of mental challenges that can be brought on to yourself by experiencing all the things that everyone got to experience during COVID.
Yeah, Tapa, while you're sharing this, a thought that came to my mind is that, if coffee doesn't kill you, loneliness will.
Mhm.
And many of our girls and our boys have been, suffering that kind of pandemic, the pandemic of loneliness, the fear, the anxiety around all of it. A lot of folks are fortunate to have loved ones like family members. Most Some of our girls and boys, they don't have that privilege. They don't have that fellowship of family, and or a loved one to take care of. You had roommates. It's not the same as your brother or sister or your mom or dad, and sometimes we are so distant from them physically, and no, and in certain cases emotionally and mentally as well. So it becomes even we are such a generation of people, or not even a generation, a group of people that are on an island alone, on an island. So it just pains so much to hear that there were two battles that we were running, or we were actually fighting side by side. One was the pandemic, coronavirus, COVID-19, and the other one was mental health. and a lot of folks, brush mental health under the carpet because it's a taboo. It's such a big barrier for us to discuss and talk about. Now, what do you think as community leaders? And you do so much work around this. What do you think are some of the barriers in our communities that gender diverse folks face for them to normalize conversations around mental health?
I guess I can touch on that. We're talking about a community with a long history of stigma and discrimination. And so we know like trans and gender diverse folks are disproportionately impacted by mental health challenges. And that disparity, I mentioned that just to show like having higher rates of mental illness and lack of access to healthcare, which is one of the barriers that a lot of folks face from accessing mental health care. It's why it's mentioning all of that and also understanding all of that is why it's so important for us to understand how COVID really impacted this community. And we already know, like doing this work, right? We know that like most of our community live in like on lower incomes and work in industries that were hit hardest by COVID, mostly in hospitality, or even like self-employment, but also like informal economy, sex work, name it. Like there was like no ability to continue working. And I mentioned this like not as a comparison. I mean, well, basically that's what I'm saying. I say just to have that understanding of how a vulnerable population is impacted compared to everyone else and other populations. And again, like it's not a comparing game, but for me, it's understanding the importance of equity, right? Like and equitable services and recognizing where like services were needed the most. And I remember back in the beginning of the pandemic, like LGBTQ people, trans people, queer people were not really clearly identified in data that came out on like how people were impacted. But like when you think about a community that is already so marginalized without COVID, I mean, you would think that those would be the communities that like COVID-19 responses would focus on immediately and right away, because recognizing that if they are already in shitty situations, imagine how much worse it is being in a pandemic that's impacting every single person on this planet.
Very well said. Yeah. Ara-Lei, what do you think are some of the barriers that our communities face, gender diverse folks face in normalizing conversations around mental health?
Well, when you think about the words mental health, being Pacific Islander to start with, there's so much stigma, like Tepa has mentioned, around the word mental health, the words mental health, right? And we've never had these conversations before as Pacific Islanders. Now, in the queer and trans community, the Pacific Islander queer and trans community, the stigma is even greater, right? Because there's this association of mental health with weakness and being unstable. And so I think that having conversations to begin with around mental health needs to start. It's unlearning a lot of the stigma that we've been taught before. One of the things that I'm grateful about the pandemic and the whole situation that we're in is that there has been a very big light that's been shining on this topic of mental health. Had there not been the pandemic, we wouldn't really hone in on this subject of mental health and mental wellness and how we can improve that with our Pacifica folks. I think there's just so much that we need to unlearn in this particular subject of mental health. And it starts with having telenoas. It starts with having conversations like this. It starts with informing community on how important it is to be able to keep healthy, not only physically but also mentally.
Yeah. And can I add on, Diana? You know, it's thank you for sharing that, Ara. And like, there's also like, we also need to unlearn and also like to what am I trying to say? But basically, like mental health is so often excluded from the idea of health overall, right? When in fact, like it's well, personally, it's the most important part of your health because you cannot function everything else without, mental health. And so, like, I wanted to add on to like barriers that trans and gender diverse folks face with accessing mental health during the pandemic. And make no mistake, like, this is not a new barrier, and this is a barrier that continued to exist before, after COVID, or even without COVID. And that is lack of folks that can speak to the multiple layers of our identities and understand our identities. And so, which is like lately we've been having these conversations about like we need to push more of our own community to take up the mantle and like become those providers so that we can help our people out better, and to be able to provide that service to our own folks. Because if I am in need of that type of support, I don't have the time to sit down and have to educate someone about my identity when I'm just coming there because I need to feel better. And it's not this is not an attack on like mental health therapists, counselors, competency. It's about like awareness that needs to be raised about like the different layers of the intersectionality of our identities and how there are multiple identity factors that are compounded together that make us who we are and make up our whole struggle. And so in order to provide like the best help that we can to someone seeking support, it is so important to like consider all of that makes up the totality of that individual. Because when we have challenges and concerns and issues, they are often accompanied by another.
That
Yeah.
is so good, Tempo.
That's very true. Now, to all those viewers who are just joining us tonight we have Ara-Lei and Tepa, who are both our community leaders, and they are actually giving us their insights on mental health. And we had a fabulous and very powerful Kurry Talk episode this evening. It is called the Atasha Effects. If you haven't seen it, if you've just joined in, you can actually watch it later because it's going to be on YouTube. It's going to be on our social media page, Facebook, Instagram, and on Twitter. Twitter, I think, as well. So, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe our social media page. And also, don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter because we have so much to give away every month. We have so much to celebrate every month, and you definitely will be missing out if you haven't subscribed to our newsletter. Now, continuing the conversation around barriers on mental health, I can share something that I had to unlearn from what I growing up in Fiji as a Pacific Islander. Ara, you mentioned earlier. I was taught that folks who are transgender are mentally ill. That's why they actually wear makeup. So this was a stigma and a thing that we learned from early childhood, and it was also a fear tactic to scare us as children from trans women and men, and so that we'd be scared of them. and generally there was a growing up there was an atmosphere created by communities that, oh, trans women are this they are special being. They can attack you, they can say something bad to you, so be careful of them. And there was all this fear, and the narrative was that they're mentally ill, that's why they're doing this. So when the pandemic happened last year, and I went through depression and stress, and I felt like I'm in the confinement of my home. I cannot meet my friends, I cannot go out, I cannot see anything. Of course, I had some stress and some moments of depression, and I just could not bring myself to discuss it with anybody. I could not turn around and tell anybody how I was feeling. I was just boiling and just piling it up and rolling it, and just letting it sit. The only way for me to handle this was to sleep, wake up, eat something, and then go back to sleep and try to sleep. And I would just automatically sleep for days and nights. And this was the only thing that I was doing, because I just could not bring myself to share my vulnerable feeling on and the emotions that I was going through, because I feared that narrative that, oh, trans women are crazy people would be, people would perceive or think of me as, oh yeah, that's what it really is. So it wasn't until I met community members and folks through Utopia that I felt the courage to speak about my situation. And when I did speak about in that safe space, I was able to let go of that stress and that depression and the emotions that I was facing for the first time. It was very powerful because I felt very safe for once, and for the first time, to share my story without being judged, without having the feeling that that it's going to come back to me. So yeah, Atasha mentioned something that reach out. She mentioned very, very heavily in her story that she's saying that she's strong. She learned that she's strong, she's resilient, but she said that ask for help. So any of you are facing any kind of difficulty, if you're having any issues with mental health, if you're having any difficulties, I don't want to use the word mental health because it sounds very like a stigma. I want to use the words like depression, stress, anxiety. These are normal things that everybody goes through. So don't fear. If you have any of those, and you're not alone. There are all of us have gone through that, and please reach out to somebody for help. Reach out to somebody you trust, a friend, a family, or somebody that you could speak to. And we have leaders in our organization that actually provide that service. If you feel comfortable, you can reach out to us as well. Now, Atasha found actually comfort in her creative talents, plants, and fur babies, not forgetting the importance of some close friends and family that comforted her and checked on her as well. Some of the community leaders, like ISIS. Now, what are some of the suggestions you have for any of our viewers out there that may be facing similar situation? What advice do you have for folks dealing with depression, stress, and anxiety?
I would say we know we're already heading into. I have to mention this just to understand the difficulty and the severity of the situation. Right, we're well into the second year of the pandemic already.
Yeah.
There's increased anxiety, there's increased stress around fear of how much longer will my job be able to continue paying me, how much longer am I going to be employed, and how much longer is the pandemic going to be going on for. There have been little specks of hope, especially with the vaccine development and more folks getting access to that, but every now and then we see an increase and a spike in numbers of COVID infections. And so definitely that roller coaster of emotions is another thing that we need to watch out for, right? Um, things like the public health actions that were taken necessarily, though, like social distancing to reduce the spread of COVID-19, but also recognizing that those can make us feel isolated and lonely. And, that can lead to like a increase in stress, anxiety, and often, sadly, suicide. Um, so it's important, like, for us to also learn about like some signs that show up in ourselves, but also in like our loved ones, because if we understand those signs, we can become more resilient, um, you know, um, to the health challenges that come our way, and that like those are things like recognizing like little things like changes in appetite, sleeping patterns. When you start seeing more feel or noticing feelings of fear, anxiety, anger, sadness, um, easily frustrated, but also like stress, anxiety can also manifest physiologically, and so it may show up in like body pains and body aches and like even headaches. And if you're someone that already has chronic health conditions, it's going to show up that way too, worsening those conditions in the same way that it can worsen if you already have existing like mental health conditions. And so one of the things that some of the things that like I started noticing that I could take last year to just be more to take care of myself, mostly. And one of the things that I always tell people is like, take breaks from watching the news. Right.
True.
Like watching the news, but like reading, listening to news stories. I don't know how about all of you, but like I have never followed the news more than how I did in the last year because there's so much going on and just wanting to know what is going on. And so like, it's good to be informed, right? But hearing about like an existing ongoing issue constantly, like how the pandemic has been can be very upsetting as well. And so we might want to consider like, limiting that news to just maybe a couple of times a day. Try disconnecting from, because the news shows up in all kinds of like avenues now, your social media, right? But also like I want to encourage folks to like take care of your body, because that's interconnected, right? Like your body and your mental health, they're interconnected. And one of like get plenty of sleep, go for a walk, exercise, however you know that you can take care of your body. But like part of taking care of your body too is getting vaccinated. Get vaccinated with COVID-19 when you can, or right now it's open to everyone above 16 years old. That's part of taking care of your body and then essentially taking care of your overall health. Make time to unwind, connect with people, right? One of the things I noticed that I used to cope with last year was I talked to my family almost every day. I know my roommates were probably tired of hearing me on the phone all the time last year with my parents, with my siblings. But it was one of the ways that I coped with like not being able to go anywhere, not being restricted to my home, not having access to physical touch, which as human beings, it's so important to us and something we long for naturally, right? And so not having that anymore, like I tried to make up for it by doing video calls with my family, my parents and my siblings almost every day. And then like another thing I want to encourage folks, and I've seen some of like my friends do this too, is like having a COVID-19 bubble, right? Like folks that if you feel like you absolutely need to connect with people, there are ways to do it safely, right? And so that you don't continue to feel isolated, feel lonely, and continue to worsen already like mental or physical health conditions you already have. And in doing that, one example is like, some of your friends that you can all have an agreement that you will only do things with them during this whole time, including hiking. If you're both working from home, you know that you're not going to have any contact with any other people, then those are the people that you should only be meeting to have connection with and go out and walk and hike and do things like that.
Creating a bubble is so important, and being accountable to each other is,
Yeah.
Bubble is a really great, I think, idea, and just being accountable and truthful, and and that's how you can get some human connection. Thank you, Tapa, for sharing that. That's very powerful.
Deborah, you mentioned about bubbles and not watching the news. This is something that I have been practicing all my life. And so if you know me, you will know that I am just oblivious to many things like around me. And the reason being is because, one, I don't watch the news, and two, I don't really catch up on, the political things. Now I do because it's part of my job. But prior to working here, I was so like oblivious to everything. I was very nonchalant when it came to like politics and things like that. And just the climate of the pandemic, I lived in my own bubble for two reasons. I don't want to get caught up in that mess. And then two, for my mental health, right? I don't need all of that stuff to clog up my perception. I'm already anxious as it is, but being informed won't help as well, but it won't hurt to be informed is what I'm trying to say. But constantly watching, like Tepa said, I don't think it's really healthy for you mentally. One of the ways that I've been able to deal with this entire pandemic and the lack of human connection, one, I use music as an avenue to just really alleviate all my stress and all the anxiety that I feel. Okay, so music has been such a great avenue for me and a great outlet for me to express myself. It's very therapeutic. Some of my friends gather on maybe like a Sunday evening, and we just have a jam session, and it's so emotionally and spiritually fulfilling, if that makes sense. I can't tell you how impactful that is, to have that moment of just singing, inspiration, being able to relax your mind from all the cares of the world through music. And another newfound hobby that I had during the pandemic that also I didn't really do it because I needed likes and all that stuff. I just did it as a way for me to express myself theatrically, because I'm kind of dramatic. So I started a TikTok page. It's garnered a few likes and whatnot, but it was a way for me to express myself because there were no places else. Hollywood wasn't opened at the time, and Broadway wasn't open, so I had TikTok. And it's been wonderful, not just to make TikToks and content, but it's also been great to just watch the numerous amount of Pacific Islander influencers there are now, queer and trans folks just leaving their mark on that app. It's a wonderful way to just, and I think Sister Tepa can attest to, just on your phone, scrolling throughout the night and just laughing at some of the things you see. It puts a smile on your face and alleviates all that depression, all that stress and anxiety you feel from this horrible pandemic that we're in.
Thank you, Ara, for sharing that. But you know what? You said that you don't subscribe so much to the news and to those kind of information. But I wonder if you really do have to, because as an empress, those news will come to you.
The news will follow you.
You just follow you. You have your own subjects that will bring it out to you, so you don't really have to, that has been dished out to you. So
As much as I love the flattery and this, imagination that you have, I am also not delusional, even though I live. I'm not delusional, love.
oh, thank you so much. I'm really, privileged to be talking to two beautiful women. Okay, so my last subject that I would like to tap in before we say goodbye is about vaccination. Vaccination is a hot discussion right now, and many people 16 and over are eligible in Washington State to get vaccinated. Actually, I think it's all over the country right now. We're also hearing reports that some folks are not really getting their second shot. So, a lot of folks who have got their first shot are relaxing, and when it's time for them to get their second shot, they don't want to get that. With all the variants and mutations of the virus, things are getting wild in some parts of the world and also in some part of the country. For folks who do not know this, King County have been having a rise in cases and hospitalization in the past week. And if we continue in this trajectory, we may be rolling back to phase 2. South King County, especially Auburn, is a hot spot right now for rise in cases and hospitalization. And I believe most of our folks that we serve actually reside densely in South King County. So if you're listening to this, if you have family members who have missed out their second shot, please ask them to get the second shot. It's really, really important. That will only mean that the person gets fully vaccinated, that it is fully protected against COVID-19. As community leaders, what best piece of advice do you two have for folks watching this show and for our communities who mostly reside in South King County? Just maybe one line or one piece of advice very quickly for everyone.
I'm going to be very real. Get vaccinated. There's been so much talk about people wanting life to be wanting to restore normalcy in life and the human connection and whatnot, but folks aren't getting vaccinated. And the only way to get to that point is to get vaccinated. So many people are against it because they say there's so much stuff in it, there's so many toxins and whatnot that go into making this vaccine, and it's new. We're like guinea pigs. But I will be so honest with you in saying that I have put so many things in my body that were illegal, right? So a vaccine is not going to hurt. And the same with you, right? How many things have you put in your body that are illegal? I'm just saying, no, not you, but our audience, right? I mean, don't caught up on this. Oh, I don't want to be a guinea pig. I don't want to be this. Like, love, get the vaccine, and then you'll be free to go. Like, don't be difficult, love.
Just go and get vaccinated.
Yeah. But also, stop listening to those false, misconceptions. Check your sources. A lot of people who are hesitating with the vaccine is because of a lot of misinformation that's circulating out there combating science, right? We're going to take those theories over science with no kind of evidence that's backing up those stories, right? But also the vaccine and COVID alone has been so over politicized that it's really brought this distrust to communities and accessing the vaccine that they really need right now, because now it just seems like more of the conservatives are not, taking the vaccine, and because they don't believe in the vaccine. And then you have people on the left who are constantly pushing for the vaccine, right? Get vaccinated for yourself and for your families and your loved ones. Stop listening to all those conspiracy theories.
I think Arizona did it best. I'm sorry, Debbie. I think Arizona said it best that, we're all products of vaccination, if you really think about it. Throughout history, the previous pandemics throughout history, they had vaccinations, and we're only here because we're a result of that. So please get vaccinated. And just so that you know, we are offering a vaccination clinic on Thursday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. If you need more information about it, please call our office and talk to Vailoa or Sasha, and email us at mail@utopiawashington.org.
And if you need, some stories from people who are like you that are sitting right here, like the three of us, all three of us on this panel tonight are fully vaccinated. And if that can bring you some more trust and some feeling of comfort, then I'm glad to talk about that experience as well. The only side effects that I experienced were, the normal side effects that you experience from getting a flu vaccine. Getting a little bit of a headache, body aches, which went away in like a day. But other than that, no, I did not grow an extra leg or a foot. No, I'm still fine today, and I got vaccinated back my last shot back in February.
Yeah, it's kind of like taking a hormone shot, ladies, and it gives you an extra glow.
Absolutely. And don't forget, next Thursday from 10 to 2 p.m. Next Thursday, that is May. What day is it? It's I think May something. You can look for it. It's
Thursday is May 6th.
May 6th. Next
Yes.
Thursday between 10 to 2 p.m., 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Next Thursday, Utopia Washington is going to be hosting a personal vaccination clinic. So if you're shy, if you don't feel comfortable going to this mass vaccination site where there's so many people, call us. We're going to host you, and we're going to make it private, simple, easy. Come in, get vaccinated, and go home, and come back for the second shot. It's going to happen next Thursday. We are doing it here at Utopia Washington's office. Our office is 841 Central Avenue North, Suite C106. Remember that? Suite C106, Kent, Washington 98032. So you can look us up on our social media page. More details is going to be coming up on that. So please don't forget that we are having a vaccination site next week, Thursday. Now, go ahead. Sorry.
I'm so glad that you brought that up, because it just also reminded me of like the recent CDC guidelines. And I want to let everybody know that's listening that CDC just came out with new guidelines with more relaxed guidelines around mask wearing for people who are fully vaccinated. So mask wearing is still very much recommended in a lot of places, but there are certain circles and certain spaces that the CDC has indicated that it is okay for fully vaccinated folks not to wear masks around. And I know people are tired of wearing masks. So that's a little bit of a step back into normalcy. And if you want to experience a lot more of that, let's get vaccinated and encourage our loved ones to all go get vaccinated.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing that. Yes, so if you want to be maskless, get vaccinated. Both your shots. And if you've missed your first shot, your second shot, it's never too late. You can still get your second shot. You can ask a healthcare provider, and I'm sure they will be able to give you the same. So if you've got Moderna, try to get the same one. If you've got Pfizer, try to get the same one. Thank you so much, Ara-Lei and Tepa, for joining us tonight. Your insights, your experiences have enriched not only me, I'm sure all of our viewers have been enriched tonight, and we've been blessed to have you on our show. This is, my privilege to have you both on this show. It's just beautified my space. So thank you. Also, if don't forget to all our viewers, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share our YouTube page, our Facebook page, our Instagram page, and also don't forget our Twitter. What do you call it?
Twitter.
It's Twitter. I don't use it, so I don't know. and but you have to subscribe. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter. There's so much resources we have every month, and we don't want you to miss out. We are bringing these resources for communities like you, and so you will be only get updated information, what's happening, what's going on around, and what we are doing actually through our newsletter. Now, I can't actually finish this episode without thanking some very special people. I would like to actually give a big shout out to ISIS. Hearing from the story, Atasha's story, ISIS has been such a invisible force of and a powerful force behind so many women in our communities, women and men in our communities. She goes in silently and inspires. She goes in silently and she rocks people and shakes people up and helps people, and and challenges us to get up and start doing some work. She did that to me, and I'm sure she's doing it to so many people. Isis, we all love you, and we thank you so much for being in our life, and we thank you for your being. You are amazing, and you already know you are so gorgeous. And also, special thanks to our communications manager, Jaron. Actually, Jaron religiously and professionally helps us put up this wonderful program. Without his help, I don't think so. I would be actually in a black screen maybe someday. And you would never be able to see me without his expertise. He is my family. He is our family. And, I'm so delighted that we have him as part of our team. He's usually doesn't come up on the, he's not on screen. He does all this back work to make every program successful. And I must also tell you, he's probably the highest winner of Employee of the Month. And that makes me so proud because, he is my family, and I'm so proud to see his growth. He's so wonderful. If you don't know anything about Jaron is so beautiful, and Jaron is a perfectionist. Jaron would not let any of us do anything half-hearted. So thank you, Jaron. You've been such a great force for us, and we are so blessed to have you. And I can't actually finish my thank you spiel without thanking Donato Fatuesi. Donato, who engages in some very, very sensitive and difficult conversations with our community and helps bringing our stories through Kurry Talk. And to all out there, thank you for tuning in. On behalf of our Executive Director, Taffy, I would like to welcome you again next month to Kurry Talks. Be safe and be, mask up. Actually, don't stop wearing masks if you're not fully vaccinated. The war against pandemic is not over yet. And of course, if you are going through some issues, some problems, please reach out to your loved ones. I love you all, and thank you so much for tuning us tonight. Have a good evening. Thank you. Bye-bye.